What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers fall to the Utah Jazz tonight by a score of 122 to 103. We will have you covered. We will break down what went wrong in this game for the Portland Trail Blazers. Before we hop into the post-game show, our stream audio will now be live on Spotify. So if you want to listen to us on the go, you can use Spotify in order to do that. I know a lot of you have wanted that in the past. We are now officially good to go on the Spotify audio uploads. Google Podcasts should have our audio as well, and we will try and get it on more platforms going forward. If this is the first time you've listened to us and you're listening on one of those platforms, come check us out on our YouTube channel, Blazers Uprise. Link should be in the episode description. And yeah, this was a very brutal performance from the Portland Trail Blazers in the second half. In the first half, they were actually leading going into halftime. We'll touch on what went right for them, but then we'll touch on what went wrong. Eric, which one do you want to start off with? I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to start off with the first half and just go in chronological order, or are you in the mood to rant right now?
Let's go in chronological order, but first let's get this dono out of the way.
We had a pre-stream dono.
If only fan-made trailers with the $5 dono says, yo, I know this doesn't seem like the biggest issue with everything going on, but we've missed a lot of free throws lately. And you saw Dame miss 2 technical ones tonight. And yes, this team has been really good shooting free throws. I don't think, like you mentioned, that's the biggest issue, but it would certainly help us stay a little closer in some of these games. But I think we have much bigger problems that we'll talk about later on.
And, missed free throws will happen in the ebbs. That's just the ebb and flow of the game, right? And that's not really something you can control. A lot of what we're going to touch on tonight as far as the negatives are things that are 100% controllable. But let's start off with the positives, Eric.
Yeah, so I thought they came out, their game plan in the first, they looked like they had a concerted effort to move the ball. The first 2 possessions in particular, there was multiple passes leading to an open 3 on each of them. We didn't hit both of them, but it was good to see ball movement leading to an open shot versus just trying to break down players in ISO. And I thought, there were some bad shots taken in the first quarter, but overall, I liked our percentage of quality possessions and just the way we seem to be trying to involve all 5 guys with kind of an attacking mindset. A lot of the passes were off drives to the paint and kickouts and stuff like that, which I think is always a good way to get the ball moving around.
Yeah, I really like we had 3 transition plays in the first quarter that Jusuf Nurkic was a part of that I thought were very good transition plays. One ended in an open Norman Powell corner 3. One ended in a Rocco, basically open layup around the rim. I forget what the other play was, but I remember early on, man, we were getting the ball out in transition and we were making the right pass and we were really attacking them. We weren't slowing things down and then trying to attack their half-court defense, which is one of the best half-court defenses in the league. I felt like going into this game, I didn't really make it a point of emphasis in the pregame show, but I feel like against this defense, you got to get out and run a little bit so you're not having to deal with them in the half court. That kind of neutralizes Gobert's defensive impact if you're able to get out and run, and I thought we did that in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's that's something, people don't think our offense needs any help for to get better or anything, but I think that is one thing where when we struggle against teams to score, it's often walking the ball up the court and trying to fight against a set defense that's designed to take certain things that we like to do away. And so it's always nice when you see glimpses of like, oh yeah, if they played a little more up tempo. As we get into the second quarter discussion, I'm sure you're going to bring up a good tweet you had about a certain lineup and how that could translate into both really good defense and really good offense in transition, like you mentioned. But yeah, so it's just, yeah, I don't know why they go away from that when that's the frustrating part. You hear all these people say they don't have the personnel or the coach can't do this because of this, but then you see it happen. There's plays where they run transition, they get easy baskets, or they make a couple passes and it results in an open shot, and then they go away from doing that, and it's like, well, like, that's not true what you're saying, because I've seen it literally happen on the court and it works great. And then they don't seem to do that anymore. I don't understand how a coach could watch film of these games and be like, you know what, we should keep playing like this third quarter effort and not how we did in the first quarter. It just, like, that's why I just think we should play more ISO and not move the ball like we did in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I made a tweet early on in this game. Let me find it and read it off. But it was basically about, kind of a Nurkic versus Kanter thing. And I said, people see the difference in how we play with Nurkic and without him, and think that he's the sole reason why there is a difference. Basically meaning, this game is kind of an example. We have Nurkic in, we move the ball, right? Nurkic comes out, our ball movement stalls. But the difference there isn't solely because of Nurkic, right? And Nurkic gets in foul trouble. He has to be a little bit smarter. He picked up a very silly third foul. He has to be smarter with not committing as many fouls. But regardless of that, when he comes out of the game, it's not us suffering from not having him in terms of us not being able to move the ball. When he comes out of the game, it's like we don't even try to move the ball. We don't run sets that spark some sort of ball movement. It's like we decide not to move the ball when he's not in the game. It's not something where we can't move the ball because he's not in the game. We just simply decide not to. That is the correlation. And we saw that when we didn't have him, for that long stretch when he was hurt. We saw flashes of great ball movement when we decided to move the ball, but most of the time we didn't move the ball because we didn't really look to, we didn't really try to. So yes, he's a better passer than Kanter is, so he's going to help your ball movement, but I think the issue is not, due to not having Nurkic in the game when Kanter's in the game instead of him. It's due to us simply not looking to move the ball when Nurkic isn't in the game. Right? And that's the frustrating part of it, is a lot of people will chalk it up to a personnel reason when it's simply not. Because if it was a personnel reason, then we'd simply never move the ball well with Kanter in the game. But we've seen flashes of good ball movement with Kanter in the game. Shoot, one of our best ball movement games was when we didn't have Dame, CJ, or Nurkic, right? So yeah. I don't buy the whole personnel excuse. We moved the ball well and I thought the whole entire first half, we got really good shots during the first half. Now we only had 54 points, right? No, we had good old math. We had 57 points at halftime. I guess Utah, that's pretty good. Now we missed some open looks, but if you look at the first half and say they outscored us, you could look at the offense and say we missed shots because we did a good job getting quality shots. That was not the case in the second half. We did not get quality shots whatsoever in the second half, and it was tied to the ball movement, and the whole we just missed shots excuse does not work if you're not getting good shots. And I don't know, do you disagree with that? Do you think our shot selection in the second half was bad? Because I thought so.
Yeah, well, in the second half it was awful. But in the first half, I thought once our subs started coming in, that's when we resort back to ISO ball. And it's not like the first couple possessions that I was talking about earlier, that was off like a CJ drive and a Powell drive. They can drive at any point and kick out to a shooter. It doesn't matter who the center is. Those weren't necessarily Nurkic creating plays. He did that during this game, but you don't need that. And what happened to, we had some success for a couple games using Melo as the short roll guy, as a passer, and we had seemed like it was a priority for him to pass out of that versus shooting. And
yeah, he had a 5-game stretch where he had 5 assists, and 6 assists.
Yep, and then since then we've barely seen him used in that way. It's back to just straight ISO one side of the court while all the other four go away from him and just let him do his thing. Tori, I saw this post today, the stupidest post I've ever seen. It was like, people say Durant can't hit mid-range shots or something, which is like the dumbest statement I've ever heard because he's amazing at the mid-range. But so I watched the video, and the first play, it was so simple. He's starting out at the block. So if for people who don't know what the block is, so you have the paint, which is like the free throw line box that goes to the baseline, and the block is the bigger block where the players stand when they're shooting the free throws.
Yeah, where Kanter would post up from.
Yeah, or where people post up from. So Durant just stands there at the block, and then there's a guy at the free throw line corner on the same side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all he does is go down, set a pick, they pass Durant, and he shoots like a free throw line 15-footer and nails it, right? And it wasn't, he was open for like a second, and that's all a guy like that needs, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not run that for Melo instead of just posting him up? Like, then maybe sometimes he could get just a shot in rhythm off the catch instead of having to turn around and shoot like that. And it's just like little things like that. Our coaching staff does not do well enough to get these guys consistent looks. And you see Melo come in the game. You see Simons come in the game and dribble the ball for 22 seconds and then pass to someone in the corner, and they have to huck up a shot or whatever. And it's just, you can tell these guys are not taught how to do the little things on offense to work as a unit versus just going one-on-one or pick and roll. And if those things don't work, this team has no clue how to counteract that. And it's frustrating because you saw in the first half work some things not having to use pick and roll. Dame gets an open three on the second possession because we don't use pick and roll, right? He's like off ball and someone drives and there's a couple passes and it ends up in Dame's hand and he gets a three. But like for the most part, the rest of the game we go away from that. And then you hear all these people say, "Oh, Dame doesn't like playing off ball," and it's just so crazy. Like, how would he not want to get open shots without having to work harder for him? It doesn't make sense.
I mean, yeah. Well, this game is just a perfect illustration of ball movement versus no ball movement. We get much better shots when we move the ball, right? And move the ball is kind of a broad term, you know what I mean? But like, the offense just needs to include two things, right? It needs to include, kind of a freelance structure, that might have some loose rules, but is somewhat freelance, but basically encourages ball movement and encourages the right type of player movement in order to produce quality shots. Freelance can be pretty much anything, right? Our freelance is simply isolation or run a pick and roll. You look at Golden State's freelance, it's nothing like that. That's why they were able to be such a good team with before even Durant got there, right? Now, little side note, now it's, Kerr had Durant and 4 All-Stars and yada, yada, yada. Man, they had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, Draymond Green, and Andrew Bogut as their starting 5 and won 73 games. Give Kerr some credit for that. I mean, that, you put that line up here and it's Draymond can't shoot. We're isolating Klay Thompson, and Klay Thompson is having to score out of isolation, which isn't his strength. And, it just doesn't look anywhere near the same. But you got to have two things if you're Portland. You got to have good motion and ball movement out of freelance. And then you have to have some set plays to try and get guys open shots where they're comfortable. Like that set that you said that, they run for KD and KD just comes off a down screen and gets a 15-footer at the elbow. Run that for Melo. Instead, for Melo to get a mid-range, it's literally dribble the ball down, throw it into Melo in the post, and he's shooting a contested turnaround fadeaway instead. When we could simply run some motion and maybe get him an open 15-footer. If not, it weaves itself into freelance and ball movement. That's what the offense should be. And during the first half, we didn't really run any of those sets, but our freelance offense during the first half was genuinely good. We got good shots off of it. The ball didn't really stick a whole lot. With the bench unit, it was kind of another story during the first half, but for the most part, with the starters, with Nurkic in the game, there's the correlation that I talked about earlier, but with Nurkic in the game, we moved the ball well. Second half, we completely get away from that, and it just boggles my mind how like why we can see something work and then we completely go away from it. And it's boggled my mind for years. And then it boggles my mind how people make it out to be a personnel thing when one of our best games of freelance ball movement involved a game where we didn't have a point guard, didn't have Nurkic, didn't have Dame, didn't have CJ. You know, we were starting Melo, we were starting Hood, we were starting Trent. Yeah, we moved the ball well. So it's not a personnel dependent thing. It's absolutely not. But you know, a lot of people make it out to be that way. So offensively, I felt like the first half compared to the second half is a great example of why we need to move the ball more, and why we need to have, especially the second half, why we need to have some sets that can manufacture some quality looks when our freelance offense isn't working. Because right now, when, you know, our freelance offense isn't working, it bogs down to pick and roll, isolation. Good defenses know how to defend against that. And then when that happens, we don't have an answer. You know, when Dame gets trapped off the pick and roll, we don't have an answer. It turns into isolation, you know. So that's the biggest offensive issue with this team. And I thought this game showcased it to the fullest.
Yeah, and so there's two more donos, and one of them kind of brings up a point that I want to mention. But the first one is from Gray Hughes Investigates, who's been really nice to us lately. Thank you, Gray Hughes, for another donation, $10. He says, bring Powell off the bench. His talents are wasted in the starting lineup with CJ and Dame. He needs more shots. Oh, and we need 2 Nurks. Yeah, that would be nice. Or just Nurk to either not be in foul trouble or to not have a minutes restriction.
Let me just say this. Giles can pass the ball.
Yeah, I know.
And he's a much better defender than Kanter, but he doesn't get a chance, man. It drives me crazy. Yeah. Appreciate the dono, Gray.
This is tough because listening to that, I don't know if you saw the article about Powell thinking this team needs a little toughness, and he's hoping to bring that or whatever. But like, we need to let Powell kind of become that tough guy for us. And I think Gray is a little right in the sense that he doesn't really get the opportunities when CJ and Dame are on the court with him. Obviously, I want him to play 30 minutes, so like he's going to have to play with those guys a decent amount of his minutes. But yeah, I wish they would feature him a little more and use his efficiency, because he's more efficient than pretty much anyone on our team in terms of overall scoring and being able to score from different areas of the floor and stuff like that. But.
Yep. And then the second dono is from Play by Play. I don't know if I've missed any of your comments in here before, but if you're new, welcome to the channel. Play by Play says, this was a prime example of Stotts not being able to adjust. First half was great, no adjustments at half. Get embarrassed in the second half. We're 11-17 versus teams top 10 in their conference with a whopping negative 208 scoring difference. And that's a great comment by Play because it touches on two of the things that I want to talk about. Let's just talk about kind of in the thumbnail, I said the Blazers have thoroughly failed their litmus test. All right. We went into this 4-game stretch, 4 games ago. We were looking at the schedule. We have Milwaukee, then a G League game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But we got Milwaukee, we got the Clippers, and we got Utah. And everybody, what?
Before you go on, Tori, but we beat OKC by 48. We're supposed to praise everyone on the team for how awesome that was and just forget about the other 3
And what did I say? I don't care what the Blazers do against bad teams. They've been good against bad teams so far this year. Their style of play, they can run isolation and pick and roll and constantly play drop scheme and get away with it against bad teams simply because we have so much talent, right? I'm a big believer of this roster, as I've said numerous times before, and we can do good against bad teams no matter how we play simply because we're far more talented than them. But what happens against good teams? We've been terrible against good teams this year, and before the 3 games against Milwaukee, the Clippers, and Utah, I said, here's their litmus test. They're healthy. Now, they didn't have Nurkic against the Clippers, but I think it's pretty obvious that, we're probably going to get blown out that game anyway, considering the other 2 games. But for the most part, they're healthy, and they lose by, what was it? I think 18 to the Bucks, they lose by 17 to the Clippers, and they lose by 19 to the Jazz, all right? The last game before that they played against a healthy playoff team was Dallas, and they lost by 40, right? They played the Nets, but the Nets were missing 2 superstars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They played the Heat, but the Heat were missing a superstar in Jimmy Butler. So the last 4 healthy playoff teams that we've faced, we've lost by 40, 18, 17, and 19. We're not even competitive. It'd be one thing if we're losing these games by, 2, 3 points. Okay, well, that's just a couple possessions, clean up a couple of little things and we win that game. But we're not even competitive. We're not even close. We're not even in the same ballpark as legitimate playoff teams right now. If this is how it's going to be, we are getting swept in the first round. We are not going to be competitive in the first round right now. This is, and everybody said, oh, well, they don't have Nurkic, they don't have CJ. Well, 2 games against playoff teams where we didn't have Nurkic and CJ against the Bucks and the Jazz, and we lose by 18 and 19 points, respectively. There's no other way to explain it at this point.
Yep. Real quick, so play-by-play says his old name was Ball Don't Lie. So.
Okay. What's up, man?
Pictures.
Yeah.
So we had another $2 donation. Thank you. Then Kyle Wilson, $5 donation, says, good news, I was successfully vaxxed from COVID. Bad news, Blazers still suck and I'm now sick. Also, did Nas slap Stotts or something?
We'll touch on Nas.
We got to get into that in a little bit.
I want to hold off and respond to the other part of play-by-play's dono before we get to that. Appreciate the dono, Kyle Wilson. And then the next one.
And then Henry Hall with a $5 donation says, this is for y'all watching the whole game so I can turn them off and discuss things for the good work, fellas.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
we will deal with the torture for you. That second half was pretty torturous.
So play-by-play broke it down by versus the top 10 in each conference. But my man Cooper gave me this before we went on. We're actually 5-12 versus the top 10 teams in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Those 5 wins, as we know, 2 of them against the Mavs, 2 of them against the Sixers, and 1 of them against the Lakers. And in the other, the 12 games that we've lost, we have lost by an average of 18.4 points.
That's not good. That's not good whatsoever.
Not good at all.
Are any of those 5 wins a blowout? The only blowout was the game we didn't have Dame, CJ, and Nurkic against Philly.
So.
No, they didn't have Ben Simmons, but they had Embiid, and Embiid was going off that game. The one blowout win we have over a top 10 team is without Dame, CJ, and Nurkic, yet everybody wants to make it out to be a personnel issue. It's mind-boggling.
And, honestly, one of the Dallas games, we leave Luka wide open for a 3 to, I forgot if it was to tie it or win it at the end, and he missed a wide open 3. But that's our clutch defense being awesome, right? and the second Philly game was when Melo hits like 6 unreal shots in a row in the fourth quarter, and we somehow build a lead and hold off the Sixers at the end. It's like I don't even know if the 5 wins were really great playing wise by us. The Laker win was good, especially on the defensive end. I thought that was maybe our completest game of the year.
That's our best game of the season, yeah.
It's just frustrating that it's just the same script, and this does not bode well. And that's why we told you guys time and time again, 11 games over 500. We're doing this all without CJ and Nurk. Like, none of that stuff mattered to us. Like, and this is why, because when it matters, or when it comes to this kind of stuff, this team does not know how to put themselves in the best positions to try and at least compete in a game like this. And that brings to the second point of play-by-play's donation, and that's Stotts not being able to adjust. So this is what happens, right? Stotts, we all know he has his system, and he doesn't vary off that very much, right? But like, every game needs to tweak a little bit. But this is what happened in the first half. We come out playing great, right? And we're beating the Jazz at halftime.
Yeah.
So what does this guy do at halftime? He does nothing. Why? Because it worked in the first half. Like, we'll just keep doing what we do, right?
Yeah. Well,
and that's the problem. Even against good teams, even if you're up by like 40 points, you have to try and switch it up and do something different. You cannot just expect to keep doing the same things, and then the team doesn't even do the same things, which is frustrating too. But like, it's just, you can't just expect the same results every time, and that's why we don't fare well against teams in playoff series, because teams make adjustments from quarter to quarter, every time out, at halftime, things like that, and we just keep running the same defensive scheme, the same offensive scheme. Okay, well, let me just say this real quick before you go. I just need to say this, get it off my mind. Kanter sucks at drop scheme. He does not, it's not working. So at least try something different with him. It's getting blown the frick up. Like, do something different with him. Why do we continue to just, like, don't even play him if it's just going to be this bad? Because he's dropping every frickin' time, and it leads to a bucket every time. It's wide open. Like, it's not working. Try something different. I know you can't, maybe you can't do anything with him, but anything is different, would be better than continuing to drop him in that way. It makes I just get so frustrated. We don't make any adjustments.
Well, yeah, the Kanter thing is what I wanted to talk about. So I'm just baffled as to how we can see something like the thing that went worst in the first half was when we brought Kanter in the game and then dropped him, right? And then the second half, it was even worse. We're dropping Kanter and they're getting, they can choose between basically a wide open three, stepping off the screen into a three, a wide open mid-range jumper, Mitchell got a couple of those, or like a lob to the rim or a dump off for the big man for a layup, right? Kanter comes in the second half and immediately Derek Favors gets pretty much a wide open layup. And you knew it was coming. Like, I basically was talking with a few people at halftime, and it was basically, Kanter's going to come in, and we're going to continue to run drop scheme, and they're going to get great shots off of it, and then we're not going to adjust. Well, Kanter comes in, they go on this, 8-0 run, or I think it was like an 8-0 run or something. They're up 8, we call timeout. Basically, they've gotten a great shot every time against Kanter dropping. Surprise, surprise, right? And in the first half, I said, if you drop Kanter, you're giving him no chance of success against Gobert, especially, because he's such a good lob target and dump-off threat that if you have to put Kanter in a situation where the ball handler's coming at him and then Gobert's coming at him and it's basically a 1v2, he has no chance for success. Here is the thing that baffles me. People will admit, like, yeah, Kanter has, zero chance for success in this scenario, but we can't try anything else because theoretically it wouldn't work. That whole mindset is very confusing to me. There's nowhere to go but up when you have him in the game and they're scoring on him in the pick and roll almost every single time down the floor. You're going to lose the game if that's happening, right? You might as well try something. Like if it's somehow even worse, which is hard to even fathom, but if it's somehow even worse, okay, we lose by 25 tonight instead of 19. What's the difference there? But at least maybe it has a chance for success. Maybe they're shocked because we actually adjusted. We play them 4 times a year, so they know how we play. Maybe they're shocked at the fact that, oh, wow, they're actually trapping, they're actually pressuring, and they're not ready to handle it, and maybe it slows them down. Or, if anything, why even play Kanter in the first place? You could play Nas more, Derrick Jones Jr. more, play Rocco at the 5. Let's see those 3 on the floor together, and let's see some trapping defense. Because if we did that instead of playing Kanter, we would have not gotten blown out by as much. I don't think there's any question about that, if you're Terry Stotts and you're that uncomfortable with Kanter hedging or trapping or playing pressure defense up there, which I think he's underrated in that aspect. We saw in the Kings game that he did a good job of it down the stretch, and we won that game, the last Kings game. I think, honestly, he's just as good as hedging or trapping, maybe better than dropping, especially against this team. But my whole point is, if you're that uncomfortable with having anything but Kanter drop, and it's getting absolutely demolished, try something else lineup-wise. Try playing Giles, who's a mobile big. Try something. But my whole takeaway from this is he can see something not work over and over again, get destroyed, and he doesn't make an adjustment. After that timeout when we were up 8, he comes back out with Melo and Kanter, and we're still dropping the big, and it continued to get destroyed.
We're going to have to watch the post-game conference because Terry addresses this very topic. So Hopefully that gets posted.
Hopefully Dwight asked it, because I asked Dwight, I tweeted at him, I said, please ask why we continue to run drop scheme with Kanter when it's getting destroyed almost time and time again.
Mm-hmm. So, he is asked, I don't know if this was a direct question, or if he just brings it up, but he does make a comment about the Melo-Kanter pairing and how it's not going to change. So we have to listen to that later. But Mike B with the $5 donation says, times like these, I wish Portlandia was on ban to see the excuses he would make. I would say more, but I would be a broke record, so I'll chill.
I don't. There was so many issues in chat. I mean, yeah. I don't know. And like, if he just came in here and stated his opinions, completely fine. But he came in here and it was more of the way he acted towards people that I had an issue with. That's why he's not around anymore.
And the Valley podcast said we had a deal we were both supposed to win. Neither of us held up to that.
Hey, but at least you guys beat this team last night. You guys are on a second night of a back-to-back, and you guys beat these guys. Look at us.
I don't know who made that deal with you, but I would not have made that deal. Was that you, Tori?
I don't know. I think it was just an implied deal. We were both supposed to take care of business. The Suns are trying to catch the Jazz, so the Suns needed to win tonight against the Clippers. They didn't, and unfortunately, I picked Suns and picks against the spread. They were supposed to win tonight against the Clippers, and the Jazz were supposed to lose, so they could have gained another game on them. But both of our teams let us down tonight. Valley Pod. It was a rough night. It was a rough night. I mean, I really want to hear if Dwight James asked that question, but I don't want to hear Stotts talk, but we will play it later on in this show, just because I know you guys will want it. I know I'm just going to get triggered at it, though.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, what else from the second half do you want to touch on, per se? Because I feel like there's probably a little bit more. Like, we got to talk about Nas still.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Nas. Where was Nas in the second half? I thought he played really good in the first half. Mm-hmm. Oh, but he missed a three. Got to take him out. Like, can't have that happen, right? Can't have a great defender who's blossoming right before our eyes, getting some confidence, taking the ball to the rack strongly, finishing a couple baskets. But nope, he missed a three. Got to get him out of there and only playing 5 minutes until garbage time at the end. Just so dumb.
I mean, I don't understand. I just don't understand the insistence on playing Melo and Kanter together. I understand if there was promises given to Melo, like, I kind of get that, but you also could play him a little bit less. I mean, the dude was a team worst minus 19. He was 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 5 from the 3-point line. Didn't have an assist, had only 1 rebound. Didn't make any sort of positive impact on the defensive end. Like, Melo is starting to struggle. He had a great month of March, but I would assume, I don't know, it's hard to get a gauge on what he is because he'll have a great month of March, but it's like I wouldn't be shocked if he was just insanely inefficient, played zero defense, and was just a big liability the rest of the season. That wouldn't surprise me. The month of March surprised me more than that would surprise me, because Melo was good in the month of March. But it's just like, I guess this is Olshey's big oversight, is the Melo-Kanter pairing. These two guys cannot work together whatsoever. And he insists on playing Kanter. And I said, like, a couple streams ago, like, I would give Harry Giles a look at backup center over Enes Kanter. Because Enes Kanter was great in the starting lineup. It was a better fit for him because he had Rocco and Derek Jones Jr. next to him, so it was a better fit for him. He had the help that he needed on the defensive end, and it was a better fit for Melo. Rocco was playing a lot small ball 5, so Rocco could give Melo some help. Those guys just don't belong together at the 4 and the 5, right? You could play one of them at a time. You cannot play both of them at the same time. It just absolutely does not work. And for that reason, with Kanter coming off the bench now, I mean, we don't really need more offense. Kanter in 21 minutes had 8 points tonight, was 3 for 4 from the field, but he was a minus 15. His defense far outweighed anything he could have done for us offensively tonight. And now part of it is Stoss just insists on dropping him, which gives him no chance of success. I think he might be a little bit more successful, hedging or trapping. But if we're just gonna drop Nurkic, which Nurkic played drop scheme very well in the first half, he did a good job of that. But I would love to come out with the second unit and surprise them and play Giles instead of Kanter. You still have that playmaking big. We haven't tapped into Giles' playmaking. And then you'd have a mobile big, and you could throw some traps out there and try and ratchet up the intensity defensively, get some easy runouts for the bench unit, and maybe swing the game, give them a different look, right? So I said that a couple games ago. Eric, you disagreed. Are you leaning a little bit more towards that as the case, or what are your feelings on that?
I'm not even going to bother with it because it's 100% not happening, and
hypotheticals.
Stott confirms that. No, I think you have to play Kanter because, I still believe that he is not the problem, and I just think that you could find a way to stagger them differently. You could find a way to not have that be the case to where you have those two, but I don't think it matters as long as we play defense the way we play. I don't think it really matters who we sub in. So yeah, but I don't think based on what's happened on the court this season, you can give Giles justify giving Giles those minutes and benching Kanter completely.
He was good for stretches last year for the Celtics, and then stretch run comes along, they bench him because he wasn't the right option for the team at that given time. At this point, I would rather play Rocco more at the small ball 5 and play Nas more and give Kanter some of Kanter's minutes to Nas. And Kanter is a better player than Nas. But what does this team need? This team needs energy, right? This team 100% needs energy. When Nas was in the game, he brought energy. He had a great drive to the rim. But he plays defense. His defense has been getting better as the season progresses. His defense has been impressive when he's on the court lately. We need defense. We need athleticism out there. Now, we have enough. I'm not saying that there's like a lack of that or that is the excuse for what we're doing whatsoever. Because as I said, just dropping Kanter continuously is just silly when it's not working. You could do a number of different things. You could have him ice. You could have him come up and trap. You could have him hedge. But at this point, it's... I'd rather just throw Nas out there because I believe in Nas. I like Giles because he's mobile, but also because of his playmaking. But if not Giles, give some of Kanter's minutes to Nas. Cut Kanter's minutes a little bit. Play him 13, 14 minutes a game instead of 21. That'll make it a little bit easier to reduce the amount of minutes that Kanter and Melo are on the floor. You could stagger them a little bit easier and play Nas more minutes and go a little bit small and pressure every pick and roll and see what that does. At this point, we got to try something else. I don't care what it is. We got to try something else. We're not, and it's ridiculous, and it's one of the reasons why I'm very negative on Stotts is because he just has his way of doing things no matter what, no matter how it looks. So he won't change anything, but right now it's just ridiculous not to try something else.
Yep. So Andrew Miller had a $10 donation. Thanks, Andrew. He says, I want Melo and Little's minutes and roles to swap unless there's a significant advantage to playing Melo. His minutes should not be consistent. Little should. Sorry for the hypothetical. It's not going to happen. Like you said, it's a hypothetical. In my opinion, the times Nas was healthy last year, we should have been feeding him as many minutes as possible. And that would have not meant benching Melo. Melo would have still gotten his minutes because we had all those injuries. We were playing Tolliver and Bazemore and Hazonia, those kind of guys. We could have given Nas plenty of minutes to develop last year and gotten a better sense of his development on the court. And that combined with his work ethic, I think he would be even further along than he is right now. And I think you would pretty much see that he unquestionably deserves to play. The way Stotts is using him this year kind of gives him an out, saying like, he's good in stretches, but we're just not sure about giving him big minutes yet or whatever. And he kind of uses that against him. Unfortunately, that's not even going to be an option, but I just wish it wasn't a set rotation. I just wish we had the ability to switch based on how the game flow is going. And like if Nas is playing well, then give him the first shot at those minutes in the second half or whatever. And if someone else is playing bad, whether it's Melo or Kanter or even a starter, like just maybe let someone else try to see if they can carry the team in the second half and just do it that way instead of being like, nope, these are my guys. This person comes in at this time. This person goes out at this time. No matter what happens in the first half, this person's going to get 7 to 8 minutes in the second half. And I just feel like that's the worst way you can do rotations. It's good to have people have defined roles, but we have too many players and these games are too important to just like mess around and have to force minutes to people who necessarily, like, I wouldn't say they don't deserve it, but like during a game like tonight, there was clearly some players that probably shouldn't have been playing at certain points.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. I mean, that's another one of the issues, man. It's the reluctance to switch things up when they're not going well. It's the reluctance to try different things in general. It's our utter lack of ball movement in the second half when it was working in the first. It's guys automatically getting more minutes than others, no matter how poorly they play in comparison. I don't know if I missed something, but those are kind of like the four main issues I have coming away from this game.
Mm-hmm. Something we haven't touched upon. So how do you think Nurk played in this game, other than the foul trouble?
I thought he played genuinely well, yeah.
Yeah, so why is it that Stotts decided that he would be the one person that he absolutely chews into on the sideline, and no one else gets that treatment? Yep. In the first half of this game, I forgot if it was after his first quarter stint or his second quarter stint, there was a clip of the sideline, and Stotts is just chewing his ass out.
No way.
And, yeah.
No way.
That happened tonight. Yep. And so this is the guy who is complaining about the lack of aggression, the lack of effort, the lack of schemes on defense, and he's actually coming in and making a difference on that end. And Stotts,
he's covering everything.
Yeah.
Because of Stotts' scheme. He has to deal with a guard driving right at him, and then he has to deal with Rudy freaking Gobert rumbling down the lane as well. He's being put in a 1-on-2 versus Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and he's doing a really good job defensively, and that's the one guy he'll chew out. Meanwhile, Dame could literally not run back on defense, nothing. CJ could just watch his guy cut to the rim for a backdoor lay-in, nothing from Stotts in regards to that. Melo can be a god. He can be a statue, man. Melo could be a statue on defense. Stotts won't say anything. Stotts won't cut his minutes at all. But when Nurk, who had a good defensive game, who was engaged, who was like playing his ass off defensively, in a position that is a very tough position for him because Stotts decides for it to be that way. You know, Stotts wants to drop him. Because of that, he gets chewed out. That pisses me off more than anything has pissed me off all season long. That actually, I mean, that's the issue with our, quote, culture. We have no accountability. The only guy he holds accountable is the guy he doesn't have to and the guy he shouldn't be yelling at. It's like people will say, you know, oh, well, as an NBA coach, you know, Stotts is good because you can't yell at your players like that. Well, then where is their outrage when he starts yelling at Nurkic when Nurkic is literally our entire defense because we run drop scheme constantly? That is so ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd, just like his answers in this post-game conference are likely to be absurd. I am so done. I can't with the coaching of this team. I mean, like, Dwight James sees it now, you know? He wasn't on the bandwagon. He's on the bandwagon now. He sees this stuff for what it is. I mean, we'll see if any other media members will finally pull their head out and, you know, see this for what it is. But it's a legitimate issue. He needs to be gone this offseason. I am at my wit's end with Terry Lynn Stotts. That's ridiculous. I didn't even see that. So I didn't even go into this stream, like, ready to rant about that.
Yeah.
That's absurd, Eric.
Because I thought you'd like to retweet my post, but yeah.
I just retweet everything you say because everything you say is golden, man.
Thanks. But yeah, so there was a play in the second half where Nas was guarding Donovan Mitchell, doing a great job. He tried to drive a couple times. Nas was staying in front of him. Dame's guy cuts around behind him, and Dame just kind of stands there and expects Nas to like go get his guy. And so like Nas is like, you can tell he doesn't want to switch. And then like eventually Nas is like, okay, well I have to go guard that guy. And so Dame ends up on Mitchell, and Mitchell just dribbles around, and Dame like sags off him and he shoots a three, and then Dame lazily contests out, and that's the when he called the foul, or he got called on the foul for a 3-point shot, and they reviewed it for a flagrant to see if he came under him or whatever. But like it was just such like lackadaisical defense, and like he's not held accountable at all for that. In fact, like this is what 9 years of teaching a player to not be accountable on defense ends up with. And Dame thinks he's supposed to just stand there and switch in that position instead of hustle to stay with his guy and let Nas stay on Mitchell because he was doing an excellent job on it. And it's little stuff like that you can blame Dame all you want, and Dame does need to get some of the blame for being lazy on defense and for arguing foul calls and not getting back, and for being lazy at times on that end, because that's absolutely happening with him.
You got to set a standard. But
the problem is we've tried to hide him, and we've tried to say, oh, in this situation, don't worry about fighting through that. Just switch and it'll be fine. You know, like that's how we teach him for 9 years how to do it. So of course, when that situation comes up 9 years into his career, that's what he does, because it's the lazy way to do things, and that's how our defense is, and that's why our defense sucks, because we don't do things like that are the difference between getting a stop in a possession and maybe not getting letting them go on a big run or something in the third quarter, and like just getting blown out and not even like seeming like we care. And once again, Utah's on a back-to-back. They played Phoenix last night in a heavily contested physical overtime game, and we came out in the second half and looked like the team that had played like 5 straight games or something. Like it's just ridiculous, our level of effort at times, especially on the defensive end. And the one guy who has come in and tried to change that, tried to go rogue so he can single-handedly fix our defense, is the one that gets his butt chewed out tonight. Just unacceptable coaching. I just want to see something different while there's still a chance for this team to do something in Dame's prime.
I wonder if this is going to boil down to a Nurkic or Stotts has to go sort of thing, because this is not trending in a good direction. If Nurkic is being the one chewed out when he gives usually as much effort as anybody on the defensive end, when he has to clean up for mistakes by a bunch of people who don't give maximum effort on that end, and then he's the one who gets chewed out, and then he's being forced to play drop scheme when, I don't know, he realizes that, oh, maybe if I trapped or hedged, it might be more productive. So he, goes and does that, and it forces a turnover the first time he does it in his first game back. The first time he goes rogue, it turns into a turnover and fast break chance the other way. And then Stotts, still doesn't want to do that. I mean, this could boil down to a Nurkic versus Stotts thing, where one of them has to go. And that's interesting because Nurkic is Dame's boy, and Dame has been super loyal to Terry Stotts. So this could be a situation that tests Dame's loyalty, I just wonder who Dame would side with in that, because he's loyal to whoever's around him. That situation is going to be interesting to follow. I feel bad for Nurkic. I appreciate Nurkic. The dude, that's just unfair to him that he got chewed out tonight.
For the record, Nurk absolutely has times where he falls asleep or blows a coverage or something like that. He's not perfect either, so he has that happen. But
he's the only one who gets chewed out for it.
When that happens, once in the first half, and then he gets chewed out when he was playing really good, other than that one possession or whatever, that's just so silly. And it makes me think that we're 100% right on the Kanter thing, because Kanter would get chewed out if he's not supposed to be sagging off 10 feet behind the line, because for some reason Stotts is fine chewing out centers, like he did this with Myers too. So like, if Kanter was out of position, Stotts shows that Nurkic is out of position one play or doesn't, has a lazy play. He gets taken out and chewed out. So like, but Kanter is doing what Stotts wants him to do, and that's the most frustrating part. Is we're literally watching this guy get abused on defense, and Stotts thinks it's a good idea to continue to put him in that position time and time again. And it's just, it's not coaching. It's
not coaching.
Yeah. No, I'm saying.
You said it's not coaching.
What Stotts is doing isn't coaching.
Oh,
he's
not
coaching.
Sorry, I just completely misheard that.
He's just like pushing. He's just like putting his players in a position or telling them where to be, and then if they don't do that, because like Nurk is 100% right. His comments are 100% right, and I'm sorry. Like, yes, there are times when it's not okay for a player to go rogue or to not buy into the coach's system and want to do something different. But what Stotts is doing is 100% not working. It is absolutely pathetic defense. He doesn't know how to coach that end. He doesn't know how to fix it. He doesn't think he needs to fix it. He thinks, if we just try hard like we do in crunch time against horrible teams, and somehow magically Dame, we're down 15 to 17 points with 5 minutes left against the Pelicans, and Dame hits a bunch of shots and we win a game. See, our defense is awesome. We just need to do it more often. And it's just such a horrible approach to coaching. And I just don't get how people can defend this guy game in and game out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You got Jason Peterson, the number one basher of us on Twitter. I would say, that dude has just been full on in support of Stotts, and anybody who disagrees with him is a moron, right? That's kind of been his whole entire thing. He tweeted out that if they lose in the first round, donkey, clown, all that type of stuff, fish head, whatever. I don't know, man. I've seen it all. But he tweeted tonight, if they lose in the first round, Stotts should get fired. So, I mean, Eric, we're progressing in terms of bosses, right? Boss number one, Dwight Jaynes, successful, okay? Jason Peterson, though, is like way up the chain, right? I felt like Chad Doing would be below that, and, maybe, I don't know, Aaron Fentress isn't even a boss. He's like he's an NPC with his takes. But yeah, I mean, Jason Peterson's up there, and then of course the master boss is Pinwheel Empire. I mean, we'll see, man. I just want them to say, you know what, you guys were actually right.
No, see, they will not ever say that. No, they'll just say, Stotts deserves to get fired, but it's not his fault. He didn't have the personnel or whatever.
But that doesn't even make any sense.
I know it doesn't make sense, but that's 100% what'll happen. If only Olshey traded for Aaron Gordon instead of Norman Powell, we would have Stotts wouldn't have gotten fired.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I mean, the dude's had 9 seasons. He does not. If you're a player coach and your team is not buying into your system, then what good are you? Like, I just don't understand. Like this, if the players are buying into a system, then the system is terrible. If they aren't buying into a system, then he's not the player coach that everyone's making him out to be, or his time has passed that mark. And this is nothing to do with like 5 years ago. Like he did. There were years where he did a fine job with this team, but his overall schemes and stubbornness have been the same since those seasons, and we're continually in a pattern that we know about all these problems and do nothing to address them schematically. And it's just not conducive to winning in today's NBA. You cannot win running the same basic offense and the same basic defense against every team and in every situation. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I hope Nurk gets through. to, like you said, it becomes a situation like that. I don't think it'll come to that, but that would be great if it turned into a players versus Stotts debate, and our star players like Dame and CJ took Nurk's side. That'd be wonderful in my mind.
Yep. Shout out Mike B, $5 dono. He says, please don't refer to Pinwheel Empire as Master Boss ever again. That's like saying Terry Stotts is better than Doc Rivers. Absolute blasphemy. Well, I think you misinterpreted that. Pinwheel Empire is so bad that they are the Master Boss. You know, the Master Boss in a video game is so evil, is so bad that they are the Master Boss. And the whole point of the game is to defeat them. Or to, I don't know, maybe turn them good? Wait, that's impossible. So, you know, try and defeat them and defeat the narrative they want to
Star
push,
Wars,
you know. Yeah.
Darth Vader. There's some good in him.
Basically, they're the, well, or you could take it this way, they are the hardest ones to beat or to change their minds, right? Like, because they're so set on what they believe is O'Shea being the worst that, you know, and nothing is Stotts' fault. But, I mean, it sounds like Trevin said we beat the Chad Doing boss, apparently. I haven't been able to see any of Chad Doing's tweets.
Yeah, I haven't either because I'm blocked too. But let me just say this. So, Chad, what did he say once our roster was set this year?
I don't remember.
Do you remember?
I don't remember.
No excuses. This year it's on Stotts. No excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens? We get off to, you know, a kind of so-so start, whatever, and then we have injuries, and then all of a sudden it's like, we need to trade CJ. The personnel sucks. Blah, blah, blah. That's all we heard. And now that we have the roster back...
upgraded, we traded... Well, hold up. Let me just... Not only do we have the roster, we started with the season with back, but it's even better. We traded Gary Trent Jr., Roddy Hood for Norman Powell.
Yep.
So it's even better.
Now it's back to, oh, yeah, Stotts has to get something done with this roster. It's over. We've been consistent this entire time. Since we started Blazers Uprise, since Tori made this channel, we've been very consistent with what we see as wrong, and that has absolutely played out in the 2 seasons we've been a part of this. And I'm not trying to, like, pat myself on the back or anything, but, like, I just don't like the inconsistencies with these people, and then somehow we're the problem on Twitter or something.
Well, it's just like, I feel like we're able to see through the noise, we're able to see through the variables, we're able to see it like consistently for what it is, whereas other people, they get too caught up in, you know, one variable, like Nurkic is hurt and they get too caught up on that and think that's far more responsible, you know, losing him is far more responsible for things than it actually is, right? So they get caught up with the noise. I think part of that might be they like Stotts and don't want to be, you know, hard on him or whatsoever unless they're forced to. Like, Stotts is a person, completely fine with him, like him as a person, but I'm not going to let my analysis be heavily influenced on my personal feelings for someone, you know, like personality-wise or whatsoever. I feel like a lot of people...
It's hard not to be biased against, like, for Dame or for Nurk, because I like those guys, you know?
I mean, I'll call out Dame too, though, you know? I mean,
I called him out earlier, but I don't do it very often because I feel like we just, like, he has to carry so much of a burden to make up for all the stuff we talk about. So I give him more of a pass. I can admit that than most people do. But this guy has to shoulder this entire franchise basically on his back. And after 9 years of it, I mean, it gets tiring after a while. And I just want to see a different voice with him.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Just Reese's.
Real quick, we missed a $10 donation from Andrew Miller.
Oh,
Thank you,
sorry,
Andrew. It says, it sucks these last few games are probably a playoff preview. Not knocking our personnel, but the better team won tonight. Assuming we don't have to scrap for a playoff spot in the play-in. Honestly, the more we struggle against good teams, the way this draft is, I don't know if it's the worst scenario to miss the playoffs and have a chance to get a lottery pick or move up in the lottery.
Let me just say this. Missing the playoffs would maximize our chances for Dame winning a championship in Portland. Because Stotts would be gone and we get a lottery pick. Because right now, at this point, I don't have any confidence in them even having a small bit of a chance of winning a championship. They can't win a championship playing like this. I mean, you can't win a championship playing the third worst defense in NBA history, and it's obvious at this point that it's not going to change. When you get Nurkic back, it's not better. Like, we're the third worst defense in NBA history against an easy schedule. Imagine if we played a hard schedule. We'd be the worst in history. The worst defense in history, in the history of the entire NBA. Now, I know the NBA has changed, is much more high scoring, yada yada, but still, there's no way to sugarcoat that. I mean, right now at this point, after tonight, we're only one game ahead of Dallas. We're only one game out of being in a playoff spot, or a play-in spot. At this point, Dallas has a very easy schedule. We have a very tough one. I am confident that they're going to pass us. We will be, at this point, my prediction is we will be the 7th seed or potentially lower. I mean, we're only 3 games ahead of 8th. That's Memphis. And Memphis, here's the thing with Memphis. They've been missing Jaren Jackson Jr. all season, and they missed John Morant for a good part of the season. That's their 2 best players. But they're only 3 games behind us, and they've played a harder schedule than us. If we played their schedule, even though they've had John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. out, if we played the schedule Memphis has played, we'd probably be tied with them right now at this point. They're 26-23. And obviously we can't beat a top 10 team at this point. So, yeah, I mean, we've looked a lot better due to our easy schedule. As I've said numerous times before, I'm going to base my analysis of this team on what they do against good teams. I said that 4 games ago, and I said, we'll wait and see in what they do against the Bucks, the Jazz, and the Clippers. Well, they lost those 3 games by a combined 54 points, 18 points per game. I didn't even think it would be that bad, and I wasn't high on them before this 4-game stretch. Yikes, man.
So Kyle Wilson with the $2 donation said, would you support a CJ for Tobias or Simmons type trade?
I'm not going to go. That would have to happen in the offseason, and what happens in the offseason is dependent on who the head coach of this team is and what happens in the playoffs, so I'm not even going to go there.
Well, real quick, I don't think Tobias is the answer for us on this team. He's having a good season, a bounce-back season after struggling last year, but he's not like a really strong wing defender. And I think that's who you wanted to be. And conversely, Philly wouldn't trade Simmons for CJ for Simmons, but they were hesitant to give up Simmons for Harden. But so Simmons, I don't know. It would obviously be an upgrade, like talent wise. I just don't think Dame and Simmons could form a very good duo. I just don't think that's the greatest matchup, and I think Simmons is a little too passive for me offensively to be the perfect complement to Dame.
What if Steve Kerr was the coach?
If Steve Kerr was the coach, I would accept anything, but I also think CJ would thrive under Kerr coaching as well in the Klay Thompson role. So
But you would hopefully be able to have Norman Powell in that Klay Thompson role.
Yeah, statistically, CJ is a little better passer than Klay Thompson, so he's not as good of a shooter. But like you could do some things with CJ, I think, to unlock some of that potential of playing Dame off the ball. I mean, you could do that with Simmons too, but I don't know. I mean, if we cut Powell, I'm fine with exploring that option. It's just, hopefully that's under a new coach that would maximize those two together.
Yeah. I mean, Lillard, Powell, Covington, Simmons, and Nurkic should be, if they're coached by a good coach, if they're coached by a Steve Kerr or somebody, would probably be top 5 in both offense and defense. There's no reason for it. Like, personnel-wise, the starting lineup should be top 5 in both offense and defense.
So, let me throw something out. I did some research today because some people were talking about, well, you got into it with Ventress too, along with a bunch of other people, about Steve Kerr, whether he was a good coach or not, and what his impact was in Golden State. Gordon is in here, who is all over those statistics anytime someone brings it up. But so Draymond Green, his first 2 years in the league, had a 7% and 11% assist percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who has multiple years better than those numbers in the NBA, passing wise, assist percentage wise?
Who's that?
Enes Kanter.
Does he?
Yes, he has 2 seasons where he did almost 13% and over 13%. So assist percentage is the amount of plays you assist on while you're on the floor.
Yeah, so it's not minutes dependent.
Yeah, so it's not just assists per game or whatever. So all these people who are saying Kerr had this all NBA dynamic playmaker, Draymond Green played like 20 minutes a game off the bench and was not a playmaker. He was not that way. He was a decent defender, and he certainly looked like he should be playing more minutes and getting a bigger role instead of David Lee at the time. But there, you can absolutely use hindsight to make it seem like Kerr was just in the right place at the right time and got this great thing. But Klay Thompson wasn't an all-star until Kerr's first season there, when he opened up the offense and got it flowing for all these players to maximize their talents and use Draymond as a playmaker. And it wasn't actually until Kerr's second season when Draymond really spiked as a playmaker. And that had a lot to do with the coaching that was involved and allowing your players to become playmakers and to pass the ball and stuff like that. Whereas if you have the attitude, oh, we don't have the personnel to make a simple pass or whatever. And Draymond can make some incredible passes, but I don't want to just make up a number, but a good portion of his passes are just passes within the offense. And then occasionally he has the nice passes like where he brings the ball up the court and makes a pass on the dime to a cutter like Nurk does sometimes. But there is no reason why we cannot have a more free-flowing offense. And if the people that blame personnel for that are just ridiculous. And the people who say, oh, Dame doesn't like playing off the ball. Yeah, he wouldn't like having a Curry-like role in an offense where he got more shots, more efficient shots, better shots, and the team did better around him. Dame would absolutely trade, even if his points per game went down a couple, he would trade that for a better team overall and a better chance to win. Mm-hmm. That's just how he's made up. So, I don't buy that he's just would not be happy or would not have developed under a different coach.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's thank some more donos. Yep. Shout out Play-by-Play, $5 dono. He says, we got the 4th most talented roster in the league behind the LA teams and the Nets. It's a shame that Stotts can't get the full potential of this team. And I don't know if I'm willing to say the 4th most talented, but there's only 3 teams that I would definitely put ahead of us, and that's the Nets and both LA teams. I think talent-wise, we're in the same tier as Utah. We're in the same tier as Phoenix. We are in the same tier as Milwaukee. We are in the same tier as Philadelphia. I mean, we've beaten Philadelphia twice, I'm just saying. There's only 3 teams that I'd put ahead of us talent-wise right now. And I feel like people, here's the thing. I made this point on Twitter. People think the Jazz have a more talented team, but they're really well coached, so of course their players are going to seem more talented, whereas in my opinion, we're poorly coached, so our players seem less talented. But it's like you had Dame, CJ, Al-Farouq Aminu, Maurice Harkless, and Yusuf Nurkic as our starting 5, and then you replace Harkless and Aminu with Robert freaking Covington, who everybody wanted for years to help our defense, as well as hit threes at a higher clip than Aminu and Harkless could. You got him, and then you got a guy who was averaging 23 points per game per 36 with elite efficiency, Steph Curry-like efficiency, and plays phenomenal defense and can drive towards the rim, in Norman Powell, right? So you took a Harkless and Aminu, and you swap those 2 out with Norman Powell and Robert Covington, yet you're getting lapped by Utah and Phoenix because Phoenix adds Chris Paul and Utah got Mike Conley and Bogdanovich. I mean, I don't see that. It's just that should not be the case. That should absolutely not be the case. Yeah, that just shouldn't be the case, man.
Yep. And Little Mikel had a $2 donation. He says Stotts wouldn't even adjust his necktie.
Man, yeah, at this point.
They're not even wearing ties this season, I don't think.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me how people can bash our roster, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see, that's the part. I mean, we've brought this up a few times, but you just touched on it. I mean, even let's say we put Utah, Phoenix, even though I don't agree with that. There was a tweet today by Kendrick Perkins saying, "Oh, look at Phoenix move the ball. They swing it to the weak side and then manage to get one of their good shooters an open shot on the strong side just from ball movement. It's not because they have dynamic passers or whatever." And you're talking about guys like Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton. None of those guys are good passers or thought of as good passers. Like it's all coaching and offense and system. And the thing is, even if you put some of those teams ahead of them, I'd probably put Milwaukee's talent just because their big three are probably better overall than our big three, I think they are for sure. But so that puts us seventh or eighth best in the league, and there's no way we should look this bad against those teams, even if you think they're slightly better than us. We shouldn't be getting blown out by these teams on a consistent basis.
Yep, that's the point we're at. So people are talking about, watch the post-game interview. They're not posting it to YouTube. I told you guys if you guys kept disliking the Stotts interview that's posted to YouTube, they might stop posting it, okay? Yeah. Well, they stopped posting it. I don't know if it's because we show them in the streams, but they could, if they wanted to, they could reach out to us and say, hey, could you guys please stop, playing Stotts' interviews in your streams? I mean, I don't know how, it should be, I don't know, I don't think there's any copyright on it, so I think we're allowed to, and the organization couldn't step in and say otherwise. But, yeah, I mean, it's not on YouTube, so we can't watch it. Blazers website. I mean, if you can find it, you can give me, if you find it, DM me a link on Twitter. For use only applies if, the content isn't monetized, Isaac. Which mine is, so.
Trying to find, because sometimes I find it when they don't post it on the Blazers channel.
Yeah.
Just someone random will.
I mean, there's a lot of gray area with stuff like that. So if they didn't want me using it, they could just reach out to me and say, "Hey, this is copyright. Don't use it," or whatever. I don't know. And then I'd be like, "Okay, no problem. No need to make it a big deal." But yeah, people were saying Blazers website. DM me a link. You guys are saying Blazers website. I mean, I'm streaming, guys. I'm not going to be able to just go search and dig through the website while I'm streaming. I'm trying to make good points here. So if somebody can find it, let me know. But I heard they take some time before posting it. So it might not line up with the stream time. I know all you guys want us to watch it, but I mean, we can't unless they have it uploaded.
You guys have to DM Tori the link. It doesn't work in chat. The link will not be shown. Yep.
By the way, perfect time to drop our Twitters at Tori Jones YT for me if you don't follow me on there already. At HoopsJock for Eric. At Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. Those Twitter links are in the description below. And if you're listening on Spotify, they should be in the episode description as well. By the way, if you're new, if you haven't been paying attention today, the audio of our streams will now be available on Spotify. If you want to listen to us on the go, it'll be easier than, opening up the YouTube app and keeping your screen on, because you can't turn off your screen and still listen to YouTube streams. So if you want to listen to the audio from our streams while on the go, we're making it easier for you with Spotify. Just search Blazers Uprise, leave us a follow on there. We'll also try and upload our video audio as well, so a mailbag or whatnot, because it's pretty easy to do and no reason not to. So yeah, we're expanding, trying to make it easier for all of you. So I guess I got a DM with the link. I got multiple DMs. Shout out to all of y'all. There's the DMs. DMs just come raining in. All right, we will watch this interview and react. This will be interesting. So let's just...
I'm adding up the picks against the spread while you do that.
Yeah. Actually, let me do that because I can have the graphic ready to go for the most part.
Well, I'm just doing it for my records then.
Yeah, I just have the graphic almost done, and I'll show that on stream actually at this point. Let me do that right now. Actually, I just had to put in the Clippers win.
So the Clippers blowing that game open in the second half cost me moving ahead of chat tonight.
Mm-hmm.
If that game went the other way, I would be sitting in first right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate for you. I gained a game on you. That's good. I gained a couple games on chat. That's also good.
You went the same as Zach though, so you guys.
Yeah, the same as Reese too, right?
Reese won. Reese was 5-3.
It was Trevin was 4-4, I believe, and then Chat was 4-4.
Yep, and I was 4-4.
Not much separation. So in terms of picks against the spread today, if you haven't watched our picks against the spread segment, we have a second channel where we stream Mondays and Thursdays, going live around 3:30 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On those streams, we do a segment called Picks Against the Spread. Got a lot of graphical stuff for that. And we basically pick that day's slate of games against the spread. Our mods participate with us. Shout out our mods, Reese, Zach, Trevin. And then, of course, it's me and Eric. And then Chat also makes a pick. Chat has been in front for a while. But so Eric... Eric, Trevin, and Chat went 4-4. Me, Reese, and Zach went 5-3. So pretty close on that. I got the Stotts interview ready to go if you guys are ready to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun.
Coming from AJ McCorvith Coin.
Hey, Coach, I'm certain you are as sick of getting asked about it as you are seeing it happen. What are some of the things you and the staff are doing specifically to address those defensive woes and take the steps that you need to make it to where you guys think you can be, which is the top 15 defense in the league?
Good question, AJ.
Well, we do what coaches do. We watch video. We
do you
walk through things on the court. We go through drills on off days when we have practices. I mean, that's what we do. So I thought we had a good defensive first half. Obviously, the third quarter was poor offense and poor defense. So it kind of went hand in hand to a bad quarter.
Okay, what went wrong? Here's the thing. Okay, let me just pause. He always says, "Oh, the defense went bad in the third quarter," or whatever. Like he never gets the questions or never elaborates on what exactly goes wrong. I feel like. But yeah, they're gonna watch film.
It's just, I love the question because she's had to ask this question several times, right? And he always gives the stupid BS answer. It's never, oh, hey, I obviously need to figure out something I am doing wrong because this team continually has breakdowns. It's not, you know what, we've tried this, and this tonight, and it worked for a while, but then it didn't work. It's always just like, oh, see, well, we were playing good defense based on, them only scoring 50 whatever points in the first half, but in the second half, our offense sucked and our defense kind of got away from us, and that's what happened. It's never like this. These are the things we're trying to do. We're trying to be more aggressive. We're trying to not have such like a conservative approach, and it's coming along slower than I would hope or whatever. No, it's always just like, oh, I don't know, we're trying stuff. We do the normal coach crap, and we watch film, and we have practices, but but what do you want me to do?
Yeah, it's very, very, very frustrating.
Aaron Fentress, the Oregonian.
Coach, Lillard hit a 3 in the third quarter to make it 68-68. From that point on, everything went downhill. Aside from
Hey, can you hang on a second? Is there any way I can turn this up?
Turn the sound up or turn the sound off? I couldn't tell which one he said. I guess somehow Fentress isn't loud enough. I don't know. He talks louder than anybody, though, when he asks questions.
Okay, Lillard hit a 3 to make it 68-68 in the third quarter, about 7 minutes to go, and went downhill from there. What happened with you guys?
We had some empty possessions. 2 plays that stood out was we from a defensive standpoint, we gave up a transition layup that we shouldn't have given up. We gave up an offensive rebound. Those 2 momentum plays took the lead from 4 to 8.
See, he'll never... Okay, so, like, there was numerous times where we got scored on because we were running drop scheme there in the third quarter. But, he doesn't point out those plays, right? If we had trapped one possession and they scored, he would 1,000% point it out because he does it almost every single time. But when it's his favorite drop scheme, right, he won't point out those plays. We got scored numerous times because we were running drop scheme there in the third quarter. But it was just transition bucket and an offensive rebound. He'd rather point those out because those aren't his fault. That's how I read into that.
And here's the deal. The point of the game where Dame, it was actually 68-68. We had the ball. That was when Nurk got called for that offensive foul where Rudy Gobert, even though he didn't get hit in the face, looked like he got shot with a cannon in the face and flipped his head back.
Yeah.
And Nurk was telling him to challenge. I do not believe that call would have been upheld. I think they would have overruled it because while Nurk has his elbow out like this, that is certainly, when you're doing a drop step, you are certainly allowed your position to be there. It does not make any contact with his face. It's right in his back shoulder area here. And I think that call would have been overturned. Nurk doesn't get his 4th foul, could have stayed in the game. A tie game at that point. That was a critical moment. And instead, Stotts saved it for when we were down 20 on a stupid play that didn't even matter. And he didn't even win the stupid
he had
challenge.
no chance of winning that challenge. It was obviously a foul. It was a blatant foul. Yeah, it makes sense.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's always like, we got beaten transition and gave up a rebound. It's like, nothing is this guy's fault. It's like, see, I can't control rebounding, so if someone gets a rebound against us, that's a good thing to say because then they can't pin it on me, you know? It's like just say, like, I didn't make the necessary adjustments at halftime. Have some courage and security there to, I mean, if you don't recognize that you're gone, if you don't fix these things, then you're obviously being completely naive here. So at some point, he's going to have to say or do what I'm saying, and that is take responsibility and say, I need to be better. And it's just not going to happen. And he's going to go down getting fired or, mutual parting of ways or however they'll end up wording it after this season. And the narrative from his point of view will be that he got the most out of this team and that it wasn't his fault. People got injured or that they didn't have the personnel or whatever. And it's just going to be a complete disservice to his lack of coaching over these last 2 seasons.
Yep.
Obviously, there are going to be some swings in the game, but I thought those 2 plays in particular kind of separated, and we never really got back into it after that.
Why do you think the offense couldn't respond? Because usually you guys can get some offense going.
And what about the other 20 points they scored in a row?
It's hard to say. They are a good defensive team, but I'd have to watch the video to see.
So he has no idea why the offense went bad. Hard to say. I'd have to watch the film. I don't know what happened. They play good defense, though. That's literally what he's saying. Let's
unbelievable.
Continue on. Oh my.
Wait, real quick, before you do that.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't a good if you have the ideal players coach, isn't that someone who always blames it on himself and never blames the players, or never?
You would think so.
Like,
you would think so.
That to me has been every player coach I know of will never blame his players. He'll always say, I need to be better. I need to put my players in a better position to win. It's not like, oh, well, they gave up an offensive rebound. What am I supposed to do? How is that a player's coach? How is that getting the most out of your talent or preparing these guys to be better the next time they face this same team?
Yeah, and what player's coach chews out the one guy he should not have been chewing out there in the first half? The one guy that was holding our defense together because of his poor defensive schematics and game plan. But Nurkic gets chewed out.
And how many points did we give up in the third quarter?
40.
40 points. But yeah, it was those 2 possessions. That was why.
Yeah.
I really can't answer that right now.
Thanks.
Jason Quick.
He ended off that answer by saying, "Yeah, I really can't answer that right now." So good job, Stotts. Jason Quick. Let's see what Jason Quick has. He usually has quality questions. And there's always like
Coach,
6 seconds of
I
silence.
don't put it all on these 2 players, but do you have any reservations about playing Melo and Kanter together from a defensive standpoint?
Great question.
It hasn't been good for long stretches, but with Nurk coming back in the rotation, that's kind of the way it works. And we've had, over the long haul, defensively, it has not been good. So that is a concern, and we have to work through it.
What does work through it mean? What does that entail?
We got to get better because those 2 guys are going to play off the bench. You know, if this is the way it is. That's Nurk is going to start. Ennis is our backup center. Melo is our backup 4-man. So
he said, "What does working through it mean?" And you said, "Well, these guys are going to play, so." Bruh, he has no idea how to work through it. He can't even provide an answer for what does it mean to work through it since those guys are going to play. Well, those guys are just going to play, so we got to work through it. These are such non-answers.
Well, I wish Quick would be like, well, what's something you can do if you have to play them together? What are some things you can do to change? Like, why are you not making adjustments to what schemes you're running or something if you have to do it? So here's the deal. I know he has to say that or whatever. Like he wants to stay there. Like I lost my train of thought, but understanding that you have to play. So basically, once again, he's saying, "Not my fault. Kanter's the backup center. I have to play him. Not my fault. We promised Melo minutes. We have to play him." It's just.
But what's ridiculous with it is, like he knows that pairing does not work defensively, but he doesn't try anything different. You could still play those guys, but you could stagger their minutes more so that they're not playing together. You could change up the schemes so that they're not playing together. But he doesn't do either of those things. So, like, people will be like, well, what's he supposed to say? He's supposed to say, well, I need, we'll try some different things schematically to see if, maybe something else is better with them in the game, and we'll try and mix and match their minutes. If he just said that, I'd be like, well, yes, thank you, finally. Oh, my goodness. But instead, it's just like, well, they're both the backup 4 and the backup 5, so nothing I can do. That's his answer. That's not good. That's not a good answer. And that's how he coaches.
The other thing, too, right? So we heard last time he took Dame out before the end of the first quarter. What did we hear after the game?
What?
Never again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Never
I don't
again,
know why.
Right? Just
yeah.
Because it didn't work out that one game, you can never do it again. So what happens here? Look, we get blown the frick out in the third quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dame plays the entire third quarter. I think CJ played all but. I think he came out for maybe a minute, but he came back in and finished the last few minutes in the third quarter, or maybe he didn't even get taken out. I don't remember, but he played most of the third quarter as well. And you went from being tied to completely down over 20 and the game being over. So you can also say, oh, well, tonight it didn't work playing him a whole quarter at a time. So, yeah, what is that? So,
yeah. And then Brandon says, if Melo was promised minutes and Kanter is the backup center, you can only stagger them so much. He literally said that they were bad defensively. He's not sure what our beef is. Olshey promised Melo minutes, yes or no?
Okay. Let's say they promised him minutes. Let's say they promised Kanter the backup center spot.
Mm-hmm.
Fair, like, okay, fine. We'll say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't do anything different with them. You have to run drop scheme. You have to play a conservative defense. You can't try to. I mean, the defense they're running isn't working. Why would you not try a different defense if you're forced to play them together? First of all, Second of all, no one. Those are two separate things. They didn't both only agree to sign here if I play with Melo or if I play with Kanter. Like, they don't care about each other playing with each other. So why not? I know it's kind of weird with the minutes restriction for Nurk, but bring him out 3 or 4 minutes into the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And put Kanter in for the rest of the quarter. And then, or until like 3 minutes left in the first quarter or something, and then have Kanter play or have Melo play the next 3 minutes of the end of the quarter, and then the first few minutes of the second quarter with Nurkic, and then bring Kanter in at the end when Melo goes to the bench at the like with a few minutes left in the second quarter, like 5 or 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and then you could also do the same thing in the second half. You could only you don't have to play them so many minutes together is my point.
Yeah, basically you could stagger them more than he already is. You could run different things defensively. I don't even know if they promised. Why do people? They didn't promise Kanter anything. They traded for him, right? It's not like they signed him.
Okay, so Kanter was given his option between staying with the Grizzlies, who was originally the team that traded for him, or playing for us instead, and he chose us.
But here's the thing though. They got Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jonas Valanciunas. He likely did not have a better guarantee from them. Like, he probably wouldn't have been in their rotation at all because they got 3 good bigs that play a ton of minutes. So it's not like we even needed to. Like you'll probably be the backup center here, but no promises on that. Or you can go be a guy who rarely plays in Memphis. He would have came here. So I don't even think that they had to promise him the backup center job to get him to choose to come here over being traded to Memphis. And that's not even really in his power because it's not like he had to sign off on the trade. He didn't have a no trade clause. So I don't get that.
Yeah.
So you could play Kanter less.
He didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here. Besides, we had Collins supposed to be back this year. We had Rocco we traded for the 4. There was not a guarantee once Collins was healthy that Kanter would be getting minutes. And, we talked about that during the offseason. And the thing is, okay, and once again, playing devil's advocate, let's say we promise both of these guys playing time. We promise Melo a certain amount of shots or that he would be featured in the second unit even. Everything we've been saying all year, I talked about this earlier in the show, give Melo that simple little down screen and have him come off a screen and shoot a curl screen like Devin Booker runs to get mid-range shots in Phoenix. Have him run some of those plays. He gets an open shot, and he's happy. He gets his shot, and it's more open. It's more efficient. He'd do better. You don't have to straight post him up 15 feet from behind the line. The ball movement in the second unit is absolutely a problem, and they don't actually do anything to address it. And then on defense, okay, you're the coach. You have to play these two guys together. Let's just say that's the reason. You have to play them together. You know they're crappy on defense. Why would you not do something or try different things or make your defense less predictable with those guys in the paint? Sometimes have them do something different. Why are we continually dropping Kanter when we've seen, you mentioned it earlier, at the end of the Kings game, Kanter, 4 straight possessions, completely perfect hedges, traps, stuff like that, recovers on his man. We get stops. We beat the Kings. We've seen him do that. Like, there's things you can try to do. And if you if you go down swinging, that's my problem. We're not even going down swinging. We have our pants around our legs, and we're getting punked by these teams. It's so easy for them to score.
Yeah.
And we're not even trying to swing back or fight back or do anything. We're just going to sit there and take it. And you have this guy saying, oh, what can I do? They're crappy at defense. Like, you're the coach. You're supposed to teach them how to play better.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let me touch on a couple things. First off, be respectful to Brandon. We're cool with him, all right? That's just want to say that first and foremost. But second, also, Brandon, if you're going to, I feel like you're not really actually fairly listening to us. Maybe you disagree with that, but, you asked us a question. We're trying our best to answer it, okay? Third, part of the reason his answer is inadequate is because he gives a cliche that he can't expand on. He says, we just got to work our way through it. And then Jason Quick asks him, okay, what does working through it mean? And he can't even explain it. So that is part of the reason why the answer is inadequate, because he's just speaking in cliches that he can't even explain. If he just said from the get-go, I know they're bad, we got to play them together, and I think I'm doing the best I can. Like, I would disagree with him doing the best he can, but that'd be better than him using a cliche like, we just got to work through it, and then being asked to expand on that cliche, and then not even touching on it, and not even explaining what they have to work through. And then it becomes, that's just the way it is. They're the backup 4 and the backup 5, so that's just how it is. When he was asked to expand on what working through it means. That's the part of the answer that I really have a problem with. So let's move on and watch the rest of this.
Okay. They will play, so we have to be better with those two on the floor.
Dwight James, NBC Sports Northwest.
Let's go. Dwight.
I will say this, Jason. One thing I will say with that is with those two on the floor, it's got to be a net positive. And what Ennis can bring to the offensive end, what Melo can bring to the offensive end, my biggest concern is that it's a net positive. If we lose a little on defense, we got to make up for it on offense.
The problem is you're not losing a little on defense. You're losing a ton on defense. You're like the worst defense in history with those two on the court. You're like the worst defense in history with those two on the court. That's the thing with like the way he phrases things. That's also another issue I have with his answers. That's a bit disingenuous, I'm fine with it, just give up a little on the defensive end and get a lot on the offensive end, and it's a net positive.
We're lagging really
Are
bad.
we? Well,
I didn't even hear any of that question.
Am I lagging? Or
yeah, I think so.
Lag is not fun. It's Blazers organization not wanting us to watch this. They're tapping into my internet. I'll wait out the lag. Open the door. We never lag, so it's not a door thing. It's like lagging, and then the feed's coming back, and then it's lagging, so I don't know what's up with it. I mean, I don't know if nobody can even hear me at this point. Can this chill, please? I think we're good. I think we're good now. Maybe not. Yeah, not. Please? We good? Hopefully, fingers crossed. I got the stream on my phone, so I'm seeing this lag too, guys. I I think we're good. Yeah. So apologies for the lag. We hardly ever get lag, so everybody's saying, open your door or whatnot. We barely ever get lag. Like, I'm hardwired, so it has nothing to do with the door because I'm literally hardwired, plugged straight into the router. That's why we never really have lag. But what was the point I was making? Do you remember? Because I don't remember.
You were talking about the Dwight James question, but I didn't even hear it, so...
I don't think he asked it. I said another reason. Like, okay, what he had just said was basically, essentially, all he's concerned about is that they're a net positive. And that, if they're giving up a little on the defensive end and getting a lot on the offensive end, it's completely fine. But the thing is, we're like historically like the worst NBA defense with those two on the court at this point. We are like, we're not giving up a little bit, we're giving up everything. So the whole, notion of, just be a net positive, they'll make more than make up for it on the offensive end. No, they won't. They haven't all season long. Like, Melo can have a great offensive game, Kanter can have a great offensive game, will still be a net negative because of how bad that pairing has been defensively.
Yeah, and if you look at some of those defensive metrics, all our guards this season are all near the bottom of the pictures. It's so embarrassing to look at.
Mm-hmm. So that's another thing with his answer that I have an issue with. I just feel like he's generally being disingenuous a lot of times when he answers questions. So that's one of the issues I have with. But now we got Dwight James. Very interested in this question. I want to see if it's the question I asked him to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Terry, speaking of the offense, I was curious what you thought.
Offense.
Your two guards, each CJ and Dame, had 21 shots apiece, and a lot of other players who shoot the ball pretty well for you didn't get very many shots. Would you like to see the shot attempts spread around a little more than they are? I mean, you got Powell who's shooting very well. You have Little who's shooting very well, who don't get half as many shots.
I think it's important that we take the shots that are there. Dame and CJ are Dame's a 30-point scorer. CJ's a 25-point scorer. I think Dame went 2 for 14 last game, something like that. So we rely on Dame and CJ to take shots. That's part of their job. So other guys are going to get shots that are there, but it's Dame and CJ's responsibility to take shots that are there. Tonight they took. Dame's averaging 20 shots a game, I believe. I don't know what CJ's averaging, but Dame is he gets 20 shots a game. That's what he does.
It does seem like.
I mean, we just got to get higher quality. We got good quality shots in the first half. In the second half, our shot quality drastically dropped. I don't care if Dame shoots 40 good shots a game. I am 1,000% cool with that. If Dame shoots 10 good shots a game and Norman Powell shoots 30 good shots in a game, I'm completely fine with that too. They're both very efficient scorers. It's just, it doesn't necessarily come down to shot distribution. It comes down to, are we getting quality shots or not?
Mm-hmm.
And the second half was far worse than the first half because we didn't move the ball as well, and we settled. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So,
I wish truth serum was a real thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm still getting really bad lag. I don't know if it's just me or not.
I think it's just you because I have the stream up on my phone right now and nobody else is saying lag. So, like, if it's like an issue for everyone, chat will let us know, Eric.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's watch the rest of this.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's a bunch of lag. I mean, the stream on my phone isn't lagging, so I don't know. It's like half the people in here, I guess. I don't know. The lag is... We rarely have to deal with lag, luckily, but tonight it's been a little bit of a problem, so hopefully... I mean, it's fine for half of you, so I guess we'll just go on with this. Chat is split on this one, so... let's try and listen to the rest of this interview.
Like you guys play better when the ball moves around a little more and other guys score more.
Wait, Dame is he gets 20 shots a game. That's what he does.
It does seem like you guys play better when the ball moves around a little more and other guys score more. Is that fair to say?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, when Dame scores well, we play well. When CJ scores well, we play well. When other guys make shots, we play well. So I don't know if there's necessarily a common thread. We, as far as the offense goes, I know you guys are tired of hearing this, but we've had success with our offense. You may not like the way that it looks at times.
Not in the postseason. Somebody needs to bring that up. Well, your guys' offense regresses drastically in the postseason, so what are you doing to make sure that's not the case this season? I would love to hear that as a question, because factually it's true. The offense regresses drastically in the postseason. So in the regular season, we'll have highly ranked offenses because you can, with this level of offensive talent, you could play any style of offense and the talent will kind of show out. But in the playoffs, when teams can kind of take away what you do best, if you make it easy for teams to take away what you do best, which, what we do is pick and roll and isolation, those are the easiest things to take away in the playoffs, then the result is the offense regresses drastically and the stats back that up. That's what happens with our offense. So it's not as much about, we ranked, 6th or 5th in the regular season. I don't care. What do we rank in the postseason? How does our offense look in the postseason? And are we doing the right things in the regular season that will translate well to the postseason? Because right now we're running the same old offense that gets us crushed in the postseason more often than not. We still don't know how to play out of the trap. We still are last in the league in assists, I believe. Maybe we're up to 29th. That would be an accomplishment. But we have very little ball movement. It's all the same things that bite us come playoff time. And against the best defenses in the league, you see it this season where against the best defenses in the league, we constantly have poor offensive nights. Now, we'll just set the world on fire and be the best offense in the league against bad teams, but against teams like the Jazz, we struggle. Against teams like the Bucks, we struggle. Against teams like the Clippers, we struggle offensively. We didn't have a good shooting night against the Clippers, even though we scored 116 points. We got to the line a lot. That was the difference there. Against the Suns, even, against the good teams in the NBA, we don't have good offensive nights, but yet here he is. I basically assume he's just going to say we're a highly rated offense and offense isn't a problem and that's not what we have to worry about. Yet against good teams and in the playoffs, it sucks and it's bad. And at this point, the defense is a complete loss, so we have to be able to outscore teams. But we're not even doing what the most we can in order to put ourselves in a position where maybe we can win a playoff series because we just purely outscore a team in high-scoring games. Because at this rate, it's going to be the same old story. The offense will regress in the postseason. The defense will be non-existent, and we'll lose in the first round.
Here's my thing, Tori. What did Stott say at the beginning of that about Dame and CJ scoring?
I honestly don't remember. Every time you ask me, what about something, okay. I always forget.
He says, sometimes it's good when Dame's scoring, and sometimes it's good when CJ's scoring, right? Mm-hmm. This is the problem. He gets credit for those guys just being complete freaks on the offensive end and being able to score despite how crappy this offense is. And this is why I argue with people like Brandon about the offense too, is because I want to see what these guys can do in an offense designed to get them shots instead of an offense that's just like, well, we give the ball to Dame and sometimes he scores, and if he does, we have a good game, and if he doesn't, we obviously struggle. that's like our offensive genius coach, or this guy gets credit because we're so good offensively when he's got Melo's 11th right now all time in scoring. Dame and CJ are elite scorers in this league right now. He's got several other good, like you mentioned, Powell is incredibly efficient. You have Nurk, who's got certainly a dynamic skill set. You got Kanter, who is for all his faults, at least offensively, shoots a high percentage and can clean up a lot of bad shots and things like that. And that's not even including some of the young guys who, for the most part, like Little and Simons, for all their faults, have shot the ball fairly well this season. So yeah, it's like, this guy is admitting that he just rolls the ball out there and lets them do these things. and he doesn't do anything to try and make it better for them. Like, why not run them off ball or have some plays or, like I said, just some simple down screens or cross screens or something? It makes no sense.
Well, I want to tie this comment/question in from Brandon. He says, if we were to zoom out, what are the chances this team looks better in 2 weeks if nobody gets hurt? Because he thinks it's pretty high, and right now they're a first round out, though. Well, what do you think is going to get better? The defense? I mean, he's not going to change schematically, so you think like individual defenders are just going to magically improve over the next 2 weeks? I don't see that, and Stotts has shown that he's not going to change up anything schematically. Is the ball movement going to improve? Because we've pretty consistently, no matter who we've had on the court, been last in the league in assists and ball movement. Or is he going to start running some sets that he doesn't right now? Because, I mean, that would be a change up from previous years. You know, like, what's going to improve? That's what I'm curious about. Like, what exactly specifically is going to improve? I don't think nothing in terms of this team's style of play is going to improve. So I don't see how they're going to go from getting absolutely destroyed by any legitimate team they face to all of a sudden being competitive with the chance to win a series against the teams that are destroying him right now. Because Stotts has shown he's not going to change up anything that he's doing right now. The style of play is not going to change whatsoever. He doesn't think it's a problem at all. Right now, personnel-wise, we're healthy. Zach Collins ain't going to make a difference. So that's the question I have for people that think it's just going to improve over the next 2 weeks is what's going to change? Because every issue that we're talking about right now, I've been talking about for years. Eric's been talking about for years. These have been issues for years. So I don't know what's going to change, and that's what I'm curious about.
And to piggyback on that, this is why we get so upset when we listen to these BS answers, because he's basically saying, well, what do you want me to do? I give the ball to Dame and CJ. Sometimes they score, sometimes they don't. I have to play Melo and Kanter. Like, what do you want me to do? I put my scheme out there, and we're expecting you to do something about it. Like, Dame gets trapped. Like, come up with some inventive, creative ways. You're supposed to be an offensive genius. Come up with some ways to make a team pay every time they trap Dame. That didn't really become a factor tonight, but against teams that do trap us, find a way to do that. And I don't know, try to find a way to attack the basket instead of settling for threes to get a team in foul trouble or get a guy like Rudy Gobert out of the game. I don't know, just come up with some fresh ideas and at least throughout the season try to implement some of these things instead of sitting here almost towards the end of the season. We're getting ready to hopefully make the playoffs. But and then we're just going to be sitting here saying, "Oh well, they double teamed Dame in the playoffs, and Nurk wasn't able to adjust when he caught the ball in the pick and roll to the playoff atmosphere, and CJ got his shots, but it wasn't enough, and our defense just wasn't good enough." It's like all these answers will ever be, and it's just all bull crap. And he is the coach. He can absolutely do something about everything we've talked about tonight. And he just basically thinks it'll just work itself out magically, and all of a sudden this team will play at 100% peak level just because, I think it will happen. Just by hope. And that is not how you coach.
Well, Brandon goes on to say, the scheme doesn't change, the effort and communication improves, the knowing where people are improves, the feel for where people want the ball improves, but assuming no scheme change. I mean, but what is, we're on game 51, and these guys don't know how to try on defense or communicate, and that's just going to magically change? That should not be the case as is, so the fact that that's still the case gives me no hope it's going to improve, because it doesn't make sense why that's how it is. Missing Nurkic doesn't make it so guys can't give effort on defense and guys can't communicate. Nurkic can't communicate for everybody, so that's not going to have any sort of discernible impact on this. Knowing where people are, on offense, because I think it's pretty easy for them to know where people are because it's generally just ISO with everybody standing around. So I don't think they have a problem knowing where people are on offense because they're all just standing in place,
Yeah, it's not like there's some great amount of movement and I missed you on that one, sorry.
Yeah. So I don't really understand that. Knowing where people are on defense, I mean, we're in game, as I said, we're in game 51. I don't know how that magically improves, and maybe that applies to Nurkic, but I mean, where Nurkic is on defense is right where Kanter would be on defense, running drop schemes. So learning where, Nurkic is on defense isn't going to change anything because he's going to be in all the same spots that Kanter was. So I don't understand how that applies to the team becoming better in the next 2 weeks. The feel for where people want the ball, I mean, the thing is, we're the last in the league in terms of passes and assists, so, I mean, I don't expect us to get a feel for where players want the ball, and if we did, I wouldn't expect us to actually utilize that since we simply don't pass the ball or move the ball. So all those things, I don't see how it ends up in us going from a team that gets demolished every time we face a good team to all of a sudden being competitive, It takes us from 18, 19-point losses to the Bucks, to the Jazz, to the Clippers, 40-point loss to the Mavericks is the game before that against a healthy playoff team. It takes us from that standpoint to all of a sudden having a chance to win 4 out of 7 games. I don't see it.
And the thing is, I mean, we can have CJ or Dame or both get hot and win some of these games. Maybe we win tonight if they both hit incredibly tough shots, but it's still not conducive to winning consistently when it matters. And that's why we continually get swept out of the playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, some of these series we're not even competitive in because we're so reliant on these two to make tough shots. And the attitude about it is, oh, the offense will be fine. We score this many points. We have the 6th best offense. Well, yeah, because these guys are incredible players. And I firmly believe that anybody who knows anything about basketball could have a similar type offense based on pick and roll and ISO if you knew anything about coaching or whatever. So, like, I don't like the fact that he's given a pass on that end because, they're top 10 in the offense, or they've had the number 1 offense the last week and a half when it's just, I don't like that you can look at a lot of different metrics to judge this, but ball movement, off-ball player movement, passes per game, cuts to the basket, all these metrics, we are dead last by a lot. And I just don't think any team can win playing that style unless you have like the best players at every position. And we obviously don't have that. We have a lot of really good players, but we're not going to win playing just roll the ball out and hope these guys play better offense. It's just not going to get us to where we need to be.
Well, one more comment, and then I'll play the rest of this interview. Brandon goes on to say, Dame has been trying to lob. Nurkic has been trying to shoot threes. Powell is new. I don't know. There are things that could for sure get better with a few dozen more minutes. Dame threw how many lob passes today? 1, and it worked. I mean, you think like Dame's played with Derrick Jones Jr. all year. Dame's played with Nas all year. Dame's played with Ant more year. Why would, like, from game 51 to 72, it would be drastically different than the first 50 games? You think Dame doesn't know how Derrick Jones Jr. plays yet? Or how Anthony plays yet when he's played with Anthony for Anthony's whole career? Or Nas? I don't buy that. Like, Dame's not going to start finding Derrick Jones Jr. and Anthony and Nas and maybe Norman Powell on 5 lobs a game. That's just not going to happen. There's not going to be improvement in that aspect. Nurkic, I think the 3 games out of the past 4 that we've played good teams, I'm pretty sure he's shooting 50% from 3. He's been 1 for 2 each game against the Bucks, Clippers, and Jazz, if I recall correctly. I don't see how that's going to get any better, and the key to this team improving is not with Nurkic shooting threes. He's not going to be a guy who makes 3 or 4 threes a game on a high percentage. And, I mean, Powell is new. Like, what does that even mean? I just feel like... you're more optimistic than us, Brandon, but I feel like that's all it is. You're just trying to be optimistic and find ways why this team is going to get better, whereas us, with the point we're at, like, those types of things for us just aren't, like, reasons to be optimistic. Like, that Nurkic shooting more threes isn't going to fix anything. Dame's not going to start throwing 5 lob passes a game, so, like... I don't know. I guess for me, it's just like, for a while, I've been done trying to find reasons to be optimistic. Instead, I just try and be realistic. And realistically, this team is not looking good right now, and I don't see it getting better.
Well, even if Dame wanted to throw 5 lobs a game, we don't have the kind of offense that would provide him the opportunity to throw 5 lobs a game. So, yeah, that's one thing. And so he said if after 6 games, he said to screenshot this. Or no, he didn't say to screenshot it. Someone else said it. But if this team looks like this in 6 games, I will publicly call for Stotts to be fired. Why don't you make it 7 games? So I was looking at the schedule. We play Detroit, who were way more talented than. We have Miami, Boston, San Antonio, which will be a good 3-game stretch test.
All those teams are like 500 right now.
But like those are good tests for us because they're not necessarily bad teams, but they're not good teams either. But they're teams that can get hot against bad defenses like us. And we got blitzed by San Antonio last time we played them. And the last time we played Miami, they didn't have, Butler, so it's kind of hard to tell. But then we play Charlotte, and then the 6th game is against the Clippers. The 7th game is against Denver. So why don't we make that 7 games, and if versus the Clippers and Denver on April 20th and 21st, if we look like this against those 2 playoff teams 7 games from now, then I think that's a pretty fair amount of time to give them. And so I'll look forward to it. I know you won't do it in like a disrespectful way, but I will absolutely hold you accountable to that. And I don't want to hear you say like if we beat the Pistons and Thunder, the Pistons and the Hornets and like one of the 3 Miami, Boston, San Antonio teams and look really good, but get destroyed by San Antonio and Miami and the Clippers or something. I don't want to hear you say, well, we were 4-3 during that stretch or something. Like I want you to be like, measure it against 7 games from now against Denver. That's a great test for us. And if we look like crap in that game, I want you to hold yourself accountable for what you said today.
Yeah, and if they look great, we'll note how the team has improved and what they've improved on. You know what I mean? We will be fair with that as well.
And for the record, yes, we're the faces of the Fire Stotts movement or whatever, but we're not out there calling for his job or like doing. We're just analyzing what we see, and that's.
I said I want him gone today, but you rarely see me tweet Fire Stotts. You rarely see me like, well, you need to fire him right now. Just the whole Nurkic, the whole berating of Nurkic thing, is just something else to me. But yeah, let's 7 games from now. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's like. Let's watch the rest of this interview, then we'll sign off.
But it's who we are offensively, and it's worked well for us this season so far.
Krista Salta, Sport DNA.
Hello, Coach. Hope you are doing well. What was the main lesson of last couple of games against the Clippers and Jazz, and what will gonna be the main improvement on your defensive end?
Well, the lesson right now is we played 2 of the top 3 teams in the West, and we didn't play well. So we're not where we need to be if we want to compete with them and throw Phoenix in there. So there's obviously a gap where we need to close the gap between now and the playoffs. And it's going to be a challenge, but that's part of what we have to do.
See, okay, he basically asked, where's the improvement defensively going to be? He didn't give one area of improvement defensively.
He just talked about how teams are better than us and we need to close that gap. Yeah,
and we need to take the challenge head on. Like, Brandon, how do you... just anybody that likes Stotts, how do you defend that? He can't even come up with one area of improvement for the defense when he's asked to come up with one. Yeah, in a lot of time, how often do you hear, well, we just gotta watch film and then figure it out. We gotta be up for the challenge. We gotta work through things. Okay, what does work through things mean? Well, Nurkic and Kanter are the backup 4 and 5. And then this guy asks, basically, where is the defense improvement going to come from? And it's, we just have to be up for the challenge, and, we haven't played well, and we just gotta essentially figure things out. Bro, he can't even give one detailed area of where our improvement is going to come from defensively. It's just a bunch of surface fluff that doesn't mean anything. Like, and if he has things in his mind, he just doesn't want to tell him, fine. But it has me worried that he's just like struggling to figure out areas of improvement because he can't even elaborate on any. I don't know. Anyway, we'll play the rest of it.
Last question is coming from Jason Quick with The Athletic.
Coach, I asked this as a question, not as a critique. I'm trying to get an understanding. Obviously, one of your guys' downfalls is your defense, and one of your better defenders is Derrick Jones Jr., and yet he's kind of had his minutes phased out. And I realized that, not phased out, but lowered. And I realize Norman is very good and all that, but where do you see Derrick in his role going from here? And I realize you have time to figure that out, but it's just kind of ironic that you guys have defensive problems and one of your best defenders is getting 11, 15 minutes a game.
Well, I'll say this. We were 29th. We were 29th in defense when Derrick was starting, and we're 29th in defense now. So,
bruh! Eric, I can't. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, Derrick ain't any better than Kanter on defense because we're 29th with both of them. That is the worst answer of the season. Oh my goodness. I can't. Brandon, you say he's mitigating damage to his players and teams, but he basically just said, like, Derrick Jones Jr. Like, how's that mitigating damage? Derrick Jones Jr. is one of our better defenders, and he's basically, like, arguing against that by saying... he doesn't matter because we were 29th with him starting, and now we're 29th with him on the bench and his minutes lowered. Basically saying he has no positive impact on our defense when he obviously does. That's not mitigating damage to his players. That's a shot at Derrick Jones Jr. I mean,
after taking shots at Melo and Kanter earlier, he said they were crap at defense, basically.
Yeah. After he chewed out Nurkic in this game in the first half, when Nurkic was the only one really stepping up on the defensive end. I mean, the whole players coach narrative is just, I don't know, man. It's
made up to protect Stotts, and it's stupid. I'm sorry, but he has lost this team, or the team doesn't buy in anymore, or he doesn't know how to coach. He just dissed someone, and you're making excuses for him that he's trying to mitigate his response.
Yeah.
If he was trying to mitigate his response, he would be like, I need to do a better job of balancing the roster. I feel bad that some of these guys have gotten their minutes cut. But instead he's like, well, I tried playing them. We were 29th in defense, and now I'm not playing them much, and we're still 29th, so does it really matter if I play him or not?
Yeah. And I get if he's not, like, fully honest, but he can be not fully honest in much better ways than what he just said. Because what he just said is worse than if he was fully honest.
Why would any player respect that answer? Like, why would that mitigate any kind of thing?
Yeah, that's just that was even Francis, that's a terrible answer. Yeah,
this goes back to what we've talked about. This guy could be given the best personnel in the league, and he wouldn't. Like, let's say he had Ben Simmons, like we traded CJ for Ben Simmons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Simmons likes to play a certain way on defense. Terry would still make him switch off of whatever guy he's guarding. He would still have the big dropping so that Simmons doesn't have an ability to trap. So he could have like Simmons and AD as the trappers, and Terry would still drop AD and switch off Simmons, and we'd still be in the same point. I mean, you get a little bit better defense because those guys are incredible athletes and can do that. But like, this guy doesn't know how to use his personnel, so it doesn't matter what the teams are. You saw them severely upgrade like their wings from in the bubble. You had Melo starting at the 3 and stuff like that, and Collins, maybe you could maybe say out of position, maybe not, but like the depth behind him was like Hazonia and all this kind of stuff. Now we have guys like Derrick Jones Jr. and Robert Covington, and we're still crap. We're still crap on defense. So like, it's just crazy to me that this guy just says like, "Oh, well, what am I supposed to do? He's not good even if I play him."
hates when our 29th ranked defense, the fact that his 29th is used against him, but he'll use it against Derrick Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh. Just
It gets better, according.
it gets better? Is that sarcasm? Who said it gets better, Eric? Who said that? Because that's how we know if it's sarcasm or not.
What's not 19 says roll the rest, guys. It gets better.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely sarcasm. Are you ready? Let's get it.
So, obviously, with Norman coming in, the 3-guard lineup has been productive for us. We got to work through the rotation as far as how we manage the minutes going from there. But Norman at 3 with Dame and CJ has been a positive for us, and we'll continue with that. How that filters out for the other players is still a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh my. Anyway.
Is that the end?
Yeah.
Okay. I was disappointed in that. I thought it got better.
Yeah, I thought it got better or worse, and that was just anticlimactic. But yeah, so Dame was quoted as saying, when we play against top-level teams, we get put away. There's a good old autoplay ad for you guys. But after blowout losses... Or wait, no. The Blazers are 1-8. Wait, I'm trying to read this. Portland began the week in 6th place in the Western Conference with a 1-6 record against teams above them in the standings. After blowout losses to the Clippers and the Jazz, they are now 1-8 against those teams. And then Dame went on to say, when we play against the top-level teams, we don't play well. We get put away. At Phoenix, we got put away. Tonight, we got put away. At Denver, we got put away. Milwaukee at home, we got put away. Clippers got put away. I mean, it's not like a small sample size. It's what happens when we play against better teams where you have to be consistent. You got to be able to sustain a certain level of focus. You've got to be sharp, physically, mentally. You've got to be present. You got to be ready to go because these teams are top-level teams, and those are the teams that we're trying to be next to. We're trying to be in the same tier of teams. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's facts. And that's what I was saying when we were going on a win streak against bad teams is, okay, what happens when we play top-level teams? We get absolutely demolished. And Dame agrees, and it's obvious. I don't think anybody can argue it at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to keep bringing this up, but where is the game where we play like a diamond and one against Houston or something like that? We're terrible at defense, right? We're giving up all these points against good teams. Why not throw just some crazy gimmick defense out every once in a while and see if you can like fluster a team or like throw something at them that they haven't seen in years and kind of mess them up or something? Yeah. Like, where is that specific game plan for a specific team instead of just running the same stuff against every team? I don't understand how we're just continually to run the same defense against every team, and it's continually looking this way.
It doesn't make sense. No matter who we have in the game, no matter who we're going against, it's like 90-95% drop scheme.
Sure, Weezy says, no, Eric, it's a net positive.
I mean, it's just...
Because against bad teams, we have Dame, so he freaking bails us out. And...
People were saying, Dame interview, please. We don't got time for that. We're already 2 hours and 15 minutes into the stream. Normally, we try and keep them between an hour and a half and 2 hours. It's amazing that we still have over 200 viewers, and we're past 2 hours into the stream. Normally, the stream isn't as, doesn't have the sort of longevity that this stream has had, but this stream has been popping off. We appreciate it. We appreciate all of you who have listened to us, who have tuned in. If you want to watch parts of this, or if you want to listen to parts of this stream, I will upload this to Spotify and Google Podcasts. So if you missed the start and want to re-listen, it will be available there. You can, of course, watch it back on YouTube as well. The watch time on YouTube does help us out, but whatever way you want to, we made it more convenient for you to listen on the go, or if you just want to listen to audio. So with that, anything else you want to touch on this game from Eric, or...
Alvaro had a donation.
Oh, Alvaro,
sorry,
apologies.
Alvaro.
Yeah.
But he says he had a $5 donation. Thanks, Alva. You're the man. He says we need to figure figure that out before the playoffs, and that will be a challenge, in quotes. And then he says, already making excuses for a first-round exit. I'm done with this man.
Yeah, I mean, we're setting up the excuses. I mean, it's crazy. There's only 21 games till playoffs. It doesn't really feel like it because we're only on game 51, but there's 21 games until playoffs. I mean, you don't... After the 7 games that we've been talking about, to reanalyze the team from Goldener's perspective, there'll only be 14 games left. So if they don't figure it out by then, like there's no hope we make it out of the first round, man. I mean, and it's sad, but that's just the way it is. I don't know. Like, the only hope would be somehow in the first round they magically become a completely different team in terms of their style of play and what they do on the defensive end. Or maybe at that point, then Kanter gets benched, or then Melo's minutes get cut for a guy like Derrick Jones Jr.'s or something. I don't know. That's like the only shred of optimism you could have at this point if this team can't start improving right now. Time is up. The excuses are up. It's time to improve. But at this point, this team has a lot of ground to make up. They could improve and still be a first round sweep at this point because they're getting demolished every time they face a good team. They're getting demolished by 18 points. They could improve a lot, and they'd be losing by 7 or 8 points. Improve 10 points a game against good teams, against teams above them in the Western Conference. That would still put them on pace to lose in 4 or 5 games in the first round. So they have so much ground to make up at this point. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with them.
Real quick, Cameron Weaver said he listened to today's earlier stream on Spotify while working out, and it was awesome. So shout out to Cameron for being the first person to acknowledge listening on Spotify. That's cool.
Yep, I made it easier for you guys to do that, work out or say you're driving or something. That's what that's there for. So glad you enjoyed it. Glad that you found that convenient because that's why I started up. I've been talking about it for a while and finally going forward on that. So shout out Brandon, $5 dono. He says, well played, smiley face. I mean, we will passionately back up how we feel with as much good reasoning as we can. I know it's easier since we're on air and you're typing. I know it's harder to type. But I mean, we just gotta wait and see on how this plays itself out over the next 7 games. I'm looking forward to it for better or worse. Maybe worse is better. Maybe better is worse. I don't know. At this point, it's just wait and see mode for the Blazers. Anyway, anything else, Eric, that you want to touch on?
Jimmy Cleveland is probably little too close to the end here to figure it out now, but he said, hey guys, I want to make a donation. I'm a Blazer fan. What do I need to do? Thanks for trying, but there's a little $sign at the bottom of the chat. You have to click on that, and I think you have to set it up somehow to link it to an account or something. So yeah, that's how you donate, through the $sign on the bottom of chat.
Somebody asked about Apple Podcasts. I think Carson asked about Apple Podcasts. We will move forward with that as well. That's a little bit tougher process than Spotify or Google Podcasts. But we do plan on getting it there as well.
And then just want to say hi to Jonathan James Photo, who says Hola from Salt Lake City. Good game.
Man.
If you're a Jazz fan, thanks for not coming in here and being a jerk like some of the other
like the
Jazz
last person. Okay, mods. If somebody just straight up insults us, that's a permaban, right? Because that guy was still in chat. I had to permaban him. He called us, curse. The one Jazz fan called us dumb in a curse word. We don't curse on this channel. We keep it rated PG, family friendly.
We let a few slip every once in a while.
Rarely. I mean, we got through that Stotts interview without doing that, so that's an accomplishment. Good game to Jonathan James. Jealous of where your guys' team is at right now. 39-13 for the Jazz. That's a phenomenal record. But yeah, so we're going to wrap up this stream. We hope to catch you guys on Saturday for the postgame after the Pistons game. That should be better, but I mean, the Pistons game, if we lose, it'll be very rant-filled. If we win, doesn't really mean much. We need to have success against good teams. Beating a bad team, we've done that all year. That doesn't really matter at this point. So hopefully it's a post-game stream where the breakdown isn't really too in-depth and, it's just kind of like, yeah, we beat another bad team. Well, just wait for the good teams when that's what will matter. Hopefully that is kind of the tune that we're singing on that post-game stream on Saturday, but we hope to catch you then. With that being said, I think that's a wrap for this stream. Thank you to my mods, Reese, Trevin, and Zach. Thank you to my channel members. Their names are in green. Thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight, everybody listening out there. The Blazers don't get it done, but, it's now or never, so we just got to wait and see on if they can finally, at some point this season, figure things out against good teams, or else it'll very likely be a first-round exit and a head coach firing. That is what we're on pace for right now. So, I'm forgetting to plug some Twitter. Oh, yeah, follow us on Twitter at ToryJonesYT for me, at HoopsJock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise Upwise YT. I can't talk. Blazers Uprise YT is the Twitter handle for the main channel page. Other than that, that's a wrap. I just gotta be done with this outro because I have completely botched it. Hope you have a good rest of your night and a good Friday. We will enjoy our day off from streaming and then be back on Saturday with that post-game stream. So until then, have a good rest of your night. And as always, peace out. Go Blazers.